Hey guys, I'm Rainey Younger, and this is another edition of Under the Radar, where we talk all things film. And with me today, I have celebrated film score composer Brian Tyler of the true story film. It's called Clouds, and it's a true story of young cancer-stricken musician Zach Sobiech. The film is great, the music is great, and Brian Tyler's great. So we got Brian Tyler right here. How's it going, Brian?
Very good. Going good here. Thank you for having me.
Sure, man. Yeah, 2 years ago, I had you on the show. We did a phoner. You were promoting
Right.
Crazy Rich Asians back then. And so that was 2 years ago. I'm curious.
Pre-Zoom.
Yeah.
Pre-Zoom.
I didn't even know what Zoom was back then. But
Yeah, I think COVID kind of made Zoom the household name that it is.
indeed. But you know, aside from this year, how have you been?
Oh, it's been great. It's been a busy year. That's for sure. Things got kind of moved around because of COVID, and certain movies got delayed and sessions and whatnot. But it turned out to be an amazing year of some very diverse and very cool projects. And one of them obviously being Clouds. And it was a bunch of films that I was doing kind of snuck right under the radar in terms of, well, not under the radar, but under the, under the, right when the lockdown happened, like filming. I was on so many films, I think like 4 films that filmed right up to the shutdown.
Yeah.
And some of them were out of the country and barely got back in the United States. Redeeming Love, for instance, and Fast and Furious, and Those Who Wish Me Dead, and Clouds, of course. And I remember Clouds was still filming, I think the week before, something, or days before, and same as Redeeming Love, right up to maybe the day before. It was just one of those really wild times where. And I was shooting the movie that I'm directing, and so the project I'm directing, Are We Dreaming? So it was it was crazy. I'd just done 5 Feet Apart last year with Baldoni, the director,
Okay.
and so it was almost like we didn't stop working on projects, because in the case of Clouds, I wasn't just scoring the film; I was producing the songs, and it's kind of acts as a musical because you have. Songs throughout the film, because of course the film is about Zach, who the true life story, as you said, of this 70-year-old songwriter that passed away from cancer, and it's really about the last kind of year of his, he's in high school. It's kind of that last year of him writing the song Clouds that became so famous.
Right.
And so I was involved a lot earlier in the process, and I was attached to the filming of it, because you have to work with the actors and have to make sure that they can play the instruments and sing the songs and do it on camera. And then you have to produce the songs. And that's before you do all this, before you even get to writing the score. So it was a double kind of very interesting project from that perspective.
Right.
And so it was really like the way COVID landed was very fortunate, because of course before COVID, we were doing what we needed to be with being around people, which is working on set and working with actors and recording the songs that way. And then the score was a score that by design was always going to be something that needed to be something where I played every instrument. It was kind of in the spirit of Zach. I wanted to do it where I sang all the kind of ethereal vocal parts. I played the guitars, I played the pianos, anything that I could do around here. So Nate Alexander played, and just, but it had to be a very pared down thing. It wasn't an orchestral score, in other words. It's more like doing a Radiohead record or something like that. And so it became a super personal project, and something that I mean, like, there's so much to talk about, but it was like the most personal project I've ever done. But we were very blessed that the craziness of the schedule because of COVID landed, we were able to actually get it done. Since Zach was this burgeoning songwriter, musician, and he was just at the beginning of his career.
Yeah.
And he's stricken with cancer, and it's just, so sad. And we, I wanted to do what I thought, if Zach kept, going on as a musician and developing his career as he wanted to, and developing, and he listened to so many different kinds of music and was always searching and wanting to learn, what would he have done? So it was almost like, what would Zach have done if he scored the film?
Right.
And so the idea behind that was that, the family was involved with the film, and his parents and his sister and brother, and everyone was like in, and also Sammy, who wrote all the songs with him, his best friend and his girlfriend, and everyone kind of, his whole circle was involved in the movie, and they really wanted to make sure that we had access to anything we needed. And one of the great things they did was they provided, access to his room and what kind of guitars he was using and what music was he listening to. And I was able to know what was he was making for his own mixtapes, what he would listen to. And this is during that last 2 years of his life. And it was such an incredible kind of Rosetta Stone for us to communicate. In that I could listen to music and feel like I know what he's feeling here as he's listening to this, because it's one of those kind of things that we could share. And I let that be kind of a guide, and that's why it has this very honest kind of humble style recording, very like, it's very indie, ethereal, and like, and straight from the heart. The instruments he loved, kind of that ambient atmospheric guitar, really cascading distant pianos and bells. He loved bells, like church bells, glockenspiels, dulcet tones, things like that. They made their way in the score. And also vocals that were very much, like Radiohead, just very much from the heart. It's not polished or anything. And I didn't sing lyrics, but I sing a lot on the score, and a lot of it's falsetto, a lot of it, but it's straight from the heart, very much, with spring reverbs and kind of that indie style recording. I'm looking at my guitars right now. They're still there. That I was using the Fender Telecaster, the Stratocaster, an old Epiphone from the 60s, all these different things. So, and then also he loved vintage synths and kind of new synth wave that was kind of a throwback to 1982, 83, but like Postal Service and all that. And so that made its way into the score, but it had to be analog. Didn't want to have anything polished or in the computer or in the box. So it was really recorded like an album, but as a score. And so when I sat down to write the theme, that was the most important part, because you can imagine the responsibility of writing a theme for someone that has recently passed, that his entire family and everyone that knew him is looking at it. It has to rise to that bar of, the impossible bar, of how do you represent someone that meant it's someone's theme, it's his theme. Yeah. So I just kind of let go. I didn't think about studios or expectations or producers or anything along those lines. I worked closely with Justin Baldoni, the director, and everyone was great on the film, studio, producers, and everybody, but I had to really go into the zone of what would Zach want. Gotcha. And so that was that whole first piece on the soundtrack, which is like a 9-minute piece, is just it's very much my first instinct and go, just stream of consciousness, channeling as much as I can. It's, the literal, like the last 2 minutes of it, even the choice of instrumentation, I didn't even think of it at the time, but the idea of church bells in the distance with this cascading up and down ostinato piano, and then me singing these very, very like high, like distant vocals with granular affected harps and like all these things just swirling around. I didn't even realize it's actually the thing that usually represents heaven in my traditional film score. But I didn't even think of that. I just was thinking, this is what Zach likes. And so as it turns out, it has this notion. So many people have said to me, it sounds like this communication with Zach. It really feels like clouds are opening up, and and you see Zach there. But that's just kind of in a way the either coincidence or the deliberation of actually going through the exercise and committing to doing something that is completely of the soul and heart instead of trying to think it through too much, and I just let go, and that's what happened.
Let it flow. Um,
Yeah.
so obviously it's a huge musical undertaking. What were some challenges you faced bringing the music to life?
Yeah, well, kind of what I was just it's bringing it to life was something that I it was that it was almost the wrestling with my own mind and letting go was so much a part of it, because I really wanted this. I've never wanted a piece for a very specific audience, which was about probably not, in terms of his family.
Mhm.
That's who I wanted it to really resonate with. So from that perspective, it was it it was weighing on me,
Okay.
and I'm so, and even Justin was so close with him. I mean, Justin was a friend, the director. He spent much of the last year, so much of that time with with Zach, because he did a documentary on him. So the director of the movie is the same person that knew him, like it really like was so close with him, and his family too. And so like everyone involved had kind of a head start in having an emotional tie and knowing Zach personally, and then of course all knowing each other. So I was kind of the new person,
Mhm.
and yet I was the one with kind of having to capture, the soul essence of this musician songwriter. And here I am, a musician songwriter composer, and so it was like, it was almost like the baton was like handed to me to run with from Zach, and it's just not something, it's that doesn't happen when you're dealing with, Iron Man or something. It's a different thing. You want all the Marvel fans to love it. You want the director to love it, and the Kevin and everyone, to make sure that it really fits the movie as well as it can, and you strive for that, and but it's a different thing. In the back of your head, that this is a movie, and this is, and Clouds is not just a movie. Clouds is a movie and a love letter to a human being that was gone too soon.
Yeah. And you said that this is your most personal film to date, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Wow.
just it's just such an incredibly emotional experience, and writing something that I felt, you know um I don't write music. I don't write music for I write music to write music, and I've always been a musician to be a musician. I never got into it for any other reason. If you're a musician starting out and your goal is to, I don't know,
Mhm.
make money or fame, or you're a crazy person. Like, that is the two worst reasons to get into writing, to music. You should get into music because it's about the music and what you're saying, and that you can stand behind it and be proud of it. And in this sense, I it was so personal, because I was so honored that, this task was given to me, of all people, and Justin was someone that has always loved my more emotionally salient music. And even though, and I kind of, and that's always been my wheelhouse, even before movies. I was always very much I was much more of like a melody, emotional kind of composer than like an action person. Although I love that too. It's not that, it's just that is kind of the wheelhouse of where I really, and Justin always recognized that. That's why he had me do 5 Feet Apart, which was another very emotionally, um emotional film, and that's becoming more of a thing now with Crazy Rich Asians and working with Taylor Sheridan on Yellowstone and all these things. So, and Those Who Wish Me Dead, of course. But I still love doing all everything, because I'm a huge movie fan too. But just it is so personal to me, and because of the responsibility that was given to me.
You scored a film with one of my all-time favorite composers, Danny Elfman, on
Yeah.
Age of Ultron. What was that experience like?
Same with me. I grew up with Danny Elfman albums, and I grew up with Danny Elfman albums before. When I was a little kid, I kind of caught the tale of Boingo Boingo too, and before he really had started, when he did it, then I remember when he did Pee Wee Herman, and I loved that movie so much, and I love that score. And then Batman, and he just kind of with Tim took off, and then I got to know him a little bit before we worked on Avengers together. We did a show together, a film music concert, and just would see him around. You kind of get to know. It's funny. It kind of ends up being down to I don't know, 20 or 30 people that you kind of just that composers that you tend to just run into more than that. You tend to go to the same events and things. Right. and so there was a time when I kind of I really got to know like Hans and John Williams and Giacchino and Danny and Tom Newman and all. It's kind of this circle, and they're great. They're all great, and they're friends, and I respect all of them so much, and really like them personally. And Danny's awesome. He was doing these things where there's one point there's like he's doing this thing with his trumpet that was like ridiculous. Like it was so high. Okay. It just like like murder range, just like and like it's like we may want to put that on a C trumpet instead of a B flat trumpet, like that. Just give him a break. No. And Danny's like, you want him to be on the edge of not being able to play it, like he loved it. It's like a really cool thing. Like, and I remember taking that, and like I've kind of incorporated that into part of my life. Like, just push it. Like I was always so careful about, I've always been because I played in orchestras too. Like I was always someone that like really was careful about making it so it was easier to play. And you should do this. Like I'll pay attention to the fingering and what's an open string on a violin or a cello. So you're not doing things that are awkward, or you don't have brass or woodwinds playing really bizarre key modulations that make it like, But like in terms of pushing the speed or the range, the range of brass or the speed of strings, for instance, or the speed, it's like the sound of being just on the edge of the train, like the wheels falling off the car kind of thing. That was a philosophy that I thought was so cool. But it was wild. I mean, like anything, even doing any Marvel project is fantastic. I'm just a huge comic fan and a Danny fan. So
was he would you consider him a mentor?
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, he was a mentor before he was a mentor. Like, for me, I remember picking out, like transcribing the Batman suite, like all of it, when I was a kid, and I used to do that a lot with John. It was just James Horner. I did that a lot with, and I would pick apart how Maurice Jarre and I would get in there and kind of figure out orchestration, like what's the style that they're doing, what's the tonal colors.
What is it like directing as opposed to scoring?
It's great. It kind of dawned on me. I was on set at night doing a night shoot and looking at, we shot at anamorphic lenses and getting them out, and it was really weird. I was really far into the project, and I was like, wait, I'm directing. What? How did this happen? It's really, but I've always been so tied to the film process. Even when I was younger, when I was learning to write music, I would shoot even as a kid, I would shoot film, direct, like edit. So I learned from my grandfather, storyboarding, perspective. I learned lenses and shooting and drafting and blocking and set design, all those things. I learned to develop film even back then. It was like on the edge of when you still cut film. So my first editing wasn't digital. It was actually cutting film. I'm the first Tyler that didn't go into visual arts as my career. Like, my father, painter, architect, visualist, my grandfather, art director, of 10 Commandments and all the DeMille films, and so like on and on, all the, even so it goes back and back. So my background is actually visual arts as a Tyler. I'm like actually the black sheep doing music. Of course, it's a huge undertaking, and you learn a lot during the process. But I love it, and you can go with your first instinct because it is so pure. Like it is 100% me. There is no second guessing. It is my best work, and I love scoring. And what that is that you are trying your best to bring to life someone else's narrative that's already there.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I'm actually telling the story, doing my own narrative. Like I'm writing music for my own narrative. The connection. The synergy is like a 1-to-1 ratio. When I do a visual, I know exactly, like I do vis effects. I learned Blender and Cinema 4D and all that. So I don't, like, if there's something and I need a rack focus on an abstract going through a wormhole, and then whatever, or a cloud goes by and then there's a mountain and I need a portal that opens up and there's I don't have to explain it. I can just I know exactly what it needs to be, and it's that direct 1-to-1. The same mind is doing the music as the visual, and it kind of the sum of that ends up being something that's really intentional, and you don't lose anything in the translation. Kind of so it's a unique thing, I think, and I'm really excited, and the reaction's been amazing.
What's the name of the project?
It's called Are We Dreaming?
Are We Dreaming? Sounds awesome. Really heady and
thank you.
I love it.
Yeah.
Clouds is on Disney Plus right now, but how can people hear the music? How can they hear the score, the soundtrack?
Right. So the soundtrack just came out. So it's iTunes, Spotify, any kind of streaming thing, and also there is the Clouds theme. If you want to see how I recorded it, it's actual recording session music video of every part that I played. It's on my YouTube page. Just look up Clouds theme by Brian Tyler. It's also on the Disney Vivo, like their music page. And it's something I'm really proud of. Eris Little shot it, who's my cinematographer actually in Are We Dreaming. He shot it, and it just was like, we really wanted to capture what recording a theme like that is, and you capture the emotion of it. It's like right on camera. It's very raw, and it's one of the things that I think as a musician I'm most proud of, showing how something was done sonically and visually. I think it brings it sheds a lot of light on how what the theme means to me and how I wrote it.
Yeah, you definitely put a lot of heart and soul into this, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brian.
Right on, man. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, so guys, please do check out Clouds, now out on Disney Plus. It's based on a true story. It's amazing. It's great for the whole family. It's moving, it's emotional, it's sad, but it's also hopeful. So just check it out. It's a great film. And Brian, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Tonight I have with me two very special friends and guests of the show. We've got Miss Rachel Kolb. Welcome back.
Hello, good to be back.
And Mr. Forrest Bennett. Hello.
Hey Randy, thanks for having me back.
Sure. I think the last time you were on was for a commentary, right? It was
Yeah, we're doing commentary, a Thanksgiving commentary for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yes, and that'll be debuting very soon on the YouTube channel. So everybody stay tuned for that. we have a lot of fun with these commentaries. We take your favorite films from the past and we kind of inject some humor and insight into them. And they're just a lot of fun for me too. It's basically movie therapy, for me. So Rachel, I hope to have you on in the future for one of those.
Yes, I will be happy to be on for any musicals, honestly, anything. Well, I would be very happy. I know that you're doing a lot of nostalgia movies, but if you decided to do something more recent, I would be happy to be on for Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to you.
And that's very appropriate for one of our reviews today.
Yeah, especially same writer director.
Yep.
Yeah, and company. But before we get to the fun stuff, we're still going to have fun with this review. The first review tonight, it's a film called Fatman, and it intrigued me because it stars a very controversial actor, Mel Gibson. And I've just been, trying to separate the personal life from the actor. He's done some great work in the 80s and 90s, both on screen and behind camera. But obviously, we know that he's had some difficulties with the law, some personal issues with alcoholism. So, Mel Gibson, he's an enigma. But there are performances of his. There are films that he's directed that I really enjoy.
Hey, I will say right now, Lethal Weapon is, like, to this very day, one of my, it is a holiday staple for me.
I agree. Definitely up there with Die Hard in terms of holiday actioners. But Fatman is a different type of holiday film. It's basically, I guess I'd call it an action comedy with elements of fantasy. And it follows Santa Claus, played by Gibson, who is kind of a crusty alcoholic at this point. He's kind of miserable with the world, and he becomes involved with the U.S. military, and basically working for them. This really very creepy 12-year-old kid gets a lump of coal in his stocking this year, so he actually hires a hitman to kill Santa Claus. The assassin is played by the great Walton Goggins, great actor, and
Yes.
It is a very interesting mix of action comedy, and I thought it was. I mean, I was expecting a little bit more, but I was satisfied with what I got. Rachel, what did you think of Fatman?
I was surprised with how much I enjoyed Fatman, and as I promised, I'll keep my feelings about Mel Gibson to 30 seconds or less. I especially dislike the fact that he has said some extremely anti-Semitic things in the past, which also makes it weird then for him to be in a role like Santa Claus that's very,
Positive,
jolly and close, yeah. like something that is so beloved. And I was actually thinking about other actors that I perhaps would have picked so that it wouldn't have that baggage with it, because I really want to recommend this movie to a lot of people because I like the concept. I got a lot of laughs out of it. It's difficult sometimes to recommend Mel Gibson movies to people. And I feel like J.K. Simmons would have been a good stand-in, alternate casting.
Yeah.
Even Nick Offerman would have been, I think, pretty amazing as Santa.
I like that idea. That's interesting. Yeah. And speaking of casting, I just want to mention there's some parallels here with Kurt Russell. So Kurt Russell actually played Santa Claus last year, I believe.
Yes.
Was it? Yeah, for
the Christmas Chronicles,
which they're doing a sequel, by the way, on Netflix. And it's funny because both actors, both Kurt Russell and Mel Gibson, were in Tequila Sunrise together. So it's a little bit of slight trivia, I guess. But Forrest, what was your take on Fatman?
On Fatman, well, we've seen, I guess we're still in the era of giving bright, colorful characters the grim, dark reboot. We've seen, Batman, James Bond, even Superman all got the grim, dark reboot. And I guess it was only a matter of time before jolly old Saint Nick got it too.
Yeah. And it kind of worked. And I think that Gibson might have. I wouldn't say he's the perfect actor to play a dark Santa Claus, but he really pulled it off.
But I feel like if you're going to have an alcoholic Santa who's not Billy Bob Thornton, I think Mel Gibson is your next best option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, as far as like alternate choice, as far as like alternatives to Gibson, though, I just wish that either Lee Marvin or Rutger Hauer were still alive, because I think they would have been perfect drunken badass Santas.
And I know
Rutger Hauer would have been amazing.
That would have been cool. And also George C. Scott. I know he played Scrooge, but was he ever Santa Claus? I don't think he was ever Santa Claus, though.
No, I don't think he was Santa Claus.
That would have been a good, interesting casting choice, too. And Rachel, I saw you nodding when I mentioned Walton Goggins' name.
Yes.
I really, honestly, I don't know the man's work that well. I know he's on TV.
He does a lot of TV work.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's a very...
Yeah, he was on The Shield, and he was on Justified.
And Vice Principals with Danny McBride.
And now he's
on
on...
The Unicorn.
Unicorn, that's the new one, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very interesting actor. I think he was pretty perfect as well as the assassin.
Yeah. You would have seen him in Hateful Eight also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie.
Yeah.
And he also had a supporting role in Predators.
Oh, the sequel. Okay.
Yeah, the third solo Predator movie.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I mean, and also even Mrs. Claus, played by Marianne Jean-Baptiste. She was phenomenal too.
Yes.
She added some heart to everything, and I really enjoyed her performance as well. So
she was fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, this film had a really impressive cast. I just wish that the story was a little tighter.
Yeah.
They could have gone in so many different directions. I like the direction they went in, but I think they could have added more. It left me wanting something more. But it's a typical Netflixer. One of those you see it on, and you'll give it a try. Why not? So so Rachel, would you see it or skip it or recommend it, or what do you think?
I would recommend it. I think for people that don't have and the thing is, I think that it's entirely appropriate that people feel uncomfortable seeing Mel Gibson on screen, but I do think for the rest of the cast and for the writing of it, I think it's kind of the perfect antidote to all the really super sweet Christmas movies. You could do a double feature of this with The Ice Harvest or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Lethal Weapon.
Those are great films, Rachel. Great films. Very dark holiday, and they feature characters that are kind of morally ambiguous, they don't know what they want out of life and what direction to go to. So, and this Santa Claus is basically that. He doesn't really know what he wants, but he's doing the best he can.
He kind of reminds me of, I was going to say this earlier, he reminds me of a union boss, at a failing factory. That's the way I feel like he plays it with the elves, especially. The whole thing that it's guys, this is our last chance. The government has been subsidizing us, but now we have to make this government contract work. Which
is strange, because I wouldn't take, typically I would not take Santa to be a union guy. I mean, unless I don't know how he I guess what does he compensate the elves with? Sweets or something? I know Oompa Loompa. That's the Oompa Loompas, but it's the.
Yeah, and the stuff with the elves was kind of strange. I kind of wanted more out of that.
Yeah, the elves didn't really get much to do.
They the scene where they were talking about their diet, which is all starches and sugars.
Oh, so
yeah, they could have really ran with that gap, but it's a dark film, but it's also very funny. It's not a family Christmas movie by any means, but I think people should check it out.
It's a very subtle deadpan humor.
Yeah, it's a very, very different type of humor you don't see a lot. It's intelligent. I think it's a smart movie. So, and also back to Gibson's career, I just wanted to mention one of the films he directed a few years ago, Hacksaw Ridge, one of the best films of that year. So you know, he's very random when it comes to his output. Like he could be really great, or he could be, you know, you could just like dismiss him because, you know, of what of his personal life. But I say separate the man from the artist, and you know, I know it may not be very easy to do, but if you can accomplish that and see, you know, his great works, then like I think Fatman is a decent work. It's not a great work, but you know, it's definitely worthwhile, and the man still has more to offer. So
Yeah,
I say
also for every Hacksaw Ridge you also get a Daddy's Home too.
or get the Gringo.
Yeah, or the Beaver, or whatever.
The Beaver.
God, yeah.
Yeah, but I say see Fat Man because it does have a very different type of humor. So.
I agree. Definitely, it's definitely a see. It probably I would say it's probably my favorite. I mean, granted, I can't think of a lot of Christmas movies that have come out in the last 5 years, but I would say it's definitely the most fun I've had watching a Christmas movie, like a newer Christmas movie since Krampus, when that came out 5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And the action sequences are pretty great, especially towards the end with Walton Goggins hunting after Santa. So
it's very with his hamster.
The action had like a very raw Michael Mann feel to it.
Okay, I can see that. Almost bordering on Coen Brothers, like the action sequences in like No Country for Old Men. That the action in that is fantastic. So I say see Fat Man, and I think you guys agree. So Fat Man is actually now out in theaters and via digital download. It'll also be available via on demand on November 24th. So check that out, everybody. Fat Man, it's great. Well, not great, but you know, watchable and fun in certain parts. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, we're gonna take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more film reviews right after this.
Under the Radar is brought to you by Magnitude Jewelry. Add a 2 to match your attitude. Patent pending interchange genuine gemstone and crystal EMF protection jewelry. For more information, please visit magnitudejewelry.com/gemgirl or call 718-268-6634.
The Radar. I'm Randy Unger, and we are halfway done, guys, with our film reviews tonight. Next up, this was just so enjoyable. I just watched it tonight, and I'm still riding the high of how much fun it was. It's called Freaky, and it is a horror comedy, which is basically it's a body swapping, gender bending adventure. Young teenage girl. She's had some, you know, personal problems. Her father's passed away. Her mother's an alcoholic. She then crosses paths with the Blissfield Butcher, who is basically the small town slasher played by Vince Vaughn. But in Vince Vaughn's arsenal of slashing weapons, he's got this mystical dagger that somehow transfers souls. So basically, when Vince Vaughn meets this young girl and attacks her with the dagger, I don't want to give everything away, I just did, but when he attacks with the dagger, their souls basically trade places with each other.
Yeah.
The killer.
It's Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
Friday.
You get it.
Freaky Friday with blood and guts.
And it's a Blumhouse film who did the very interesting Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day 2, which were a lot of fun in the past few years. and they've done a bunch of other great horror comedies as well. I thought this was fantastic. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it, and I recommend this to Forrest. I know you're a big horror guy.
Yes.
And I recommend this
for my Aliens background.
Yeah, of course. And I recommend this to even if you're not a horror fan, but especially if you're into like 80s slasher films. This is a great throwback to that, and obviously the gender bending body swapping formula as well. Rachel, what were your thoughts on this film?
From the moment that I saw the trailer and then saw that it was the writer-director of Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You, I knew this movie was going to be good. I was very excited about it. And you can actually see a lot of similar touches between the Happy Death Day movies and this one. Like, for example, the scene in the Happy Death Day movies where she's walking through the campus and there's all the different characters that are inhabiting that campus, that there's like the person getting signatures and there's, the frat boys that are doing the initiation. You have a similar scene in this movie where she's walking through the center of town and there's like all the, people of the town, and there's the guy that she always stops and says hi and has to say hi to his dog. And I will say that similar to the Happy Death Day movies, this movie has some really fun kills in it.
Yes.
It does a really good job of balancing that the kills are really brutal and like are really but they're also very funny. And like one example that I'll give, because it's extremely early on, is that the main character is trying to run away from the butcher, and she's wearing half of a school
mascot uniform.
Yes, she's wearing the pants part of it, so it's making it impossible for her to run. Which is such a great thing, because it's like, this is the most humiliating possible way that I could die right now, is like dying in half of a mascot uniform, because I can't run.
Very, very silly.
And I think the performances were all really great, especially the two leads of
Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton.
Catherine Newton, really, she did a very, very good job. I agree with that. Not just a pretty face, but she had some serious acting chops. And I'll be honest, the main reason I wanted to see this because of it was Vince Vaughn. I love Vince Vaughn. I
almost forgot he was in, until I saw the movie, I almost forgot that he was in it. For me, this is probably this is the most I've laughed at a Vince Vaughn movie since the Wedding Crashers.
I'd agree with that statement for sure.
And I think it's the third. Also, because he's previously played serial killers in the he's previously played serial killers. Norman Bates in the Psycho remake, then Domestic Disturbance. But I feel like this is both of those movies are terrible. But I feel like I feel like the third time was the charm with Vince Vaughn playing a serial killer.
Yeah, because he's a comedic actor really through and through. So he has to bring that out in his pretty much every performance. And I think this role managed to serve that. Playing. He's playing a psycho killer once again, but now he's doing it with what he's good at. He's able to combine that with what he's good at. There's so many great touches that he throws into his performance, like the fact that this teenage girl doesn't know how to move in this giant Vince Vaughn body, and she doesn't know the amount of strength that she has. And then on the other side of it, that the killer stuck in her body is used to being able to just pick up someone and throw them, and is like, oh wait, I can't do that anymore. I'm super, super weak. At the same time, though, she's able to use her. She's able to to his advantage. He's able to use her small stature and her good looks to his advantage to get what he wants. Yeah, and using that sexuality to lure victims in even easier. So that too. I wanted to actually mention Alan Ruck. He has a very small role in this. I'm not going to give it away, but it was kind of interesting to see him.
Yeah,
I
I know he's he's been working steadily for the last 20 years, but I haven't really seen him in anything since Spin City.
Right.
That show ended that show was been off the air for almost 20 years.
I know. His career is very random. Like he does. So yeah, Ferris Bueller in the 80s, then Speed and Spin City.
And then he also, I think he was, wait, which Star Trek movie was he in? Was it Undiscovered Country or Generations?
Good question. I do remember him having he had the red suit, right?
Yes, he had a red suit.
Okay. I don't know. Rachel, are you an Alan Ruck aficionado?
I mean, he was always my favorite part of Ferris Bueller. I mean, he's one of those really great, reliable character actors. I think right now he's on Succession, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's on HBO.
Okay.
Oh, and of course, yeah, he was in an episode of One Day at a Time, which I am a big proponent of.
Okay.
But yeah, he like consistently gets like these parts and things, and he's always good. It's just he's not really a leading guy. So.
Yeah.
He needs like a quirky indie drama to just like break out, and then he'll have like a career resurgence. Because he's very, very good and very very likable, actually.
I don't think I've ever seen him as mean as he is in this movie, because he is awful.
And he's so over the top too. It's ridiculous.
And like very gruff, very gruff. I've never seen him so. Actually, I've never seen him so seems so curmudgeonly.
Yeah, and actually kind of a bully and a jerk to specifically towards the main character.
Catherine Newton, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Blumhouse, they're killing it. They're coming out with great film after great film. And I read that this universe in Freaky might coincide a little bit with the Happy Death Day universe.
I could see that. They're very tonally similar. Same writer director, Christopher Landon, son of Michael Landon. He also did I don't think it's Blumhouse, but he also did Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse.
Okay.
He's very very much steeped into horror comedy at this point, and he's also written a few of the Paranormal Activity sequels. So he's very unlike he's like very steeped into horror at this point in his career.
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting too that both the Happy Death Day and also this franchise, that a central part of it is the loss of a parent. Which in the Happy Death Day movie, it's the loss of the mother, and in this one, it's loss of the father. That's
sort of like the trigger, apparently, for heroines or heroes in these types of movies. And far as back to, I know I'm fascinated by your fascination with horror. I know that you went to some of the filming locations for the original Friday the 13th this past weekend.
Yes, this past Friday the 13th, I went on a road trip to Blairstown, New Jersey. And Renwick, New Jersey. I went to hit up the various filming locations for Friday the 13th, especially because this year is the 40th anniversary of its release. So I went to the diner that Steve Christie stops off at before he goes back to camp, and then I went and walked around the town a little bit. So saw a couple of went along Main Street and saw all the filming locations there. Okay. They actually do have on Main Street. They do have a Friday the 13th museum.
Really?
That has like original props and costumes.
Cool. Did you pick up anything?
I did. I've got this water bottle that is not. Oh, okay. Here it is with Camp Crystal Lake on it. I actually got it. I got it when I went to the camp itself.
Nice.
And the camp itself, it's.
Is it just like a field?
Huh?
Is it just like a field with a? Is there even a lake?
It's actually a lot more spread out than I thought it would be. Like
okay.
The movie makes everything like all the cabins and everything around the camp makes everything everything looks so close and so flat. But no, in real life, everything's a lot more spread out. It's a lot more, there's a lot more, there's quite a bit of hiking to do to get from cabin to cabin or from to the archery range, or like to the barn where Mrs. Voorhees kills her first two victims.
And I saw some of your photos. There was actually a guy dressed as Jason, like walking around.
No, that was at the diner.
Oh, just at the diner, not a.
Yeah, because they didn't allow costumes at the camp. Even though it did feel like having a second Halloween though. And I should mention that as far as other souvenirs, I did get a keychain which is not showing. Okay, here it is.
Oh, I like
Oh,
that.
very cool.
That's
And
cute.
then a coffee table book on location in Blairstown, the making of Friday the 13th.
Cool. Good finds. Nice.
But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Learned a lot. Learned quite a bit. Learned quite a bit about the making of the making of the movie there. Actually, for a long time, apparently the owners of the camp were embarrassed that movie was made there. But it's only in the last few years it's only like in the last 10, 15 years they've finally come around and start allowing like fans to come to the camp. And they'll do tours during the off season as a fundraiser for their camp, because it's a scout camp, but also for a neighboring camp but also raise funds for a neighboring camp for terminally ill children.
Okay.
So it goes to a good goes to a good cause.
Definitely. I'm happy to hear that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Amazing. One
funny bit of trivia. So the camp is located in Warren County in Warren County.
Okay.
Which is the county where the sanitarium from Halloween was. Warren County, and 100 miles south of it is the real Haddonfield.
It's all connected, my friend. That's awesome. But back to Freaky. Rachel, how do you view this Blumhouse universe? Do you think it has a bright future?
I mean, I hope so. I'm just happy that horror movies are fun again.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for so long, it's like we had Hostel, and it was just, and we had like the stuff that was just so downer. Like, I mean, even like Hereditary got a lot of praise, obviously, and is a very, very dark movie. But
a lot of slow burners.
Yeah. But like Midsummer, that movie for me was just all sorts of crazy fun.
Oh, that was my favorite. That was my favorite movie of last year.
That was so disturbing. I think that left a very permanent impression on me. I don't know. It's an emotional scar, I think. But it's a fantastic film. It's filled with like layers and themes, and the performances are great. The imagery is shocking, but beautiful in some ways. Midsummer, that's a crazy. It's like, and it's not even a horror movie. It's like its own genre. But that's a really crazy movie, and that's in the past 10 years, that's definitely among the best of the genre of horror. But
I mean, things like Freaky and like Happy Death Day, I would put those more in the same category as like a new Scream franchise, which I love. I'm just like, yes, like more Scream, more Cabin in the Woods.
Or even if you go back to the 80s, stuff like Shopping Mall and Night of the Demons.
Yes.
I love Shopping Mall's great. It's fun. Yeah, like you just need a movie like that. Like Freaky is the quintessential movie to just put on when you have a bunch of friends, you're just hanging out. It's Friday night, you want to watch something silly. This is the movie to pick. So I'm really grateful that it's in our lives now, and I actually can't wait to rewatch it because it's really that good.
Oh, I agree.
I think there might even be a sequel in the works. I think the filmmakers have expressed some interest in a sequel. So that would be amazing too. And if it's as good as the sequel to Happy Death Day, then we're definitely in for a treat.
I feel like if they do make a sequel, is it going to be because to me, Happy Death Day to you was more of a sci-fi than a horror.
Yeah. Well, they could branch off. It doesn't have to be another body swapping story. They could just, I don't know, go to space if they want.
Well, it's the thing that like Happy Death Day is Groundhog Day, but done like a horror comedy, and Freaky is a combination of Freaky Friday and Friday the 13th. And it's like, so what what movie are we gonna get next? Are we gonna get the Shaggy Dog, like the?
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be some sort of lighthearted comedy, that you can add a body count to.
Yeah, you can start digging into the Disney movies of like the 70s and 80s, the live action movies.
Oh, and actually, I just remembered that the original title for this was Freaky Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Yep.
I guess they felt this Freaky was a little, it was more punchy, but yeah, guys, I say see it. Like this is a
Definitely see
fantastic
it.
film. It's a wonderful horror comedy. It's one of the best everything I've ever seen in my life. Like it's a perfect blend of both genres. So yeah, I say definitely see it. So Rachel, agree?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. I would say see it.
Cool. Mr. Bennett?
Oh, definitely see it.
Nice. Our horror aficionado tonight. And Freaky is now out in select theaters and will be released on Blu-ray and digital via video on demand on January 4th, 2021. So just a bit of a heads up there. So guys, before we close out, I just want to do some plugs real quick. Rachel, anything you want to mention to the masses?
So, a couple things. I actually just started a podcast of my own. I'm just a few episodes in at this point, but yeah, I was gonna say Randy's actually hearing about it for the first time.
Yeah, wow, this is a first.
Yeah, it's a little bit branching away from entertainment. It's a podcast called Faith Healing, and it's about kind of my background in religion and faith, and talking with people of all different types of faith about different things. We talk about animal ethics. We talk about whether all dogs go to heaven. We talk about as far as like your bar and bat mitzvahs with some of my Jewish friends, which is an experience I unfortunately didn't get to experience as I'm not Jewish. And
Nobody's
yeah,
perfect.
it's.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, believe me, like us Protestants do not get something that cool. We get confirmation, which is honestly not that exciting. And then you can find Faith Healing. It's on iTunes, Spotify, pretty much anywhere that you can find your podcasts. And then also I'll put in a plug for my dog Dobby and his Instagram, which is Dobby the House Doggo, and he's sitting right here, right next to me, right here. Hello. Let's say hello to the people at home. Yeah.
Dobby. And what was the name of the podcast, Rachel?
The name of the podcast is Faith Healing.
Faith Healing. Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. Okay. Very exciting. And Forrest, anything you want to plug yourself, sir?
Lately I've been on the Inside Movies Galore podcast as a panelist. Tomorrow we're going live discussing Friday the 13th parts 7 and 8.
Okay.
And then Tuesday we'll be discussing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first movie for its 30th anniversary, along with Color Out of Space.
Very good film. We reviewed that. I think it was earlier this year or last year at some point.
Yeah, I think I would say so far of the few movies movies to get released this year.
Yeah,
one's probably my favorite so far.
Yeah, it's a twisted Nick Cage performance, and
it's like very it's definitely Nicolas Cage at maybe not quite on the scale of scale of Mandy, but definitely Cage definitely
it gets
Cage
close to that. Yeah. And actually Friday 13th parts 7 and 8, those were actually my two favorite installments.
Oh, really? Those are probably, for me, I would probably put 7 somewhere in the middle, and then 8 kind of probably second or third to last.
Okay. Well, we just went through the whole series on Matt Haberman's podcast, where it was split up into 2 parts, and we did, I think, 1 through 5, and then 6 to the remake. So that was quite an adventure getting through all of those movies. But it was nice revisiting them. They're really silly fun as well.
Yes.
Cool. All right, guys. So before we head out, I just want to mention Magnitude Jewelry, our wonderful sponsor. They've got a new kids line, so check that out. Some exciting stuff there. And guys, yeah, I just want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. This was a lot of fun, and I hope to have you guys on for a commentary and or a future episode. So
Absolutely.
Rachel Kolb, thank you. Forrest Bennett, thank you very much. Keep up the horror stuff. I love it.
Thank you, Randy.
And yeah, I'm Randy Unger. This has been Under the Radar. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.